Hello, welcome back to iAskTech. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create API in Node.js. So let's start setting up the development environment. First of all, we need to install the Node.js and npm. Then you will have to create a Node.js project, and after that you have to install the necessary dependencies. So let's begin. First of all, if you want to install the Node.js or npm, you can open the Node.js official website and you can download it from there. Or if you want to follow a tutorial, I also have recorded a video on YouTube about installation of Node.js and managing its version. So here you can find several videos that you can follow and quickly install and manage their versions. Anyways, so once Node.js is installed, we need to create a Node.js project. So open your terminal, go to the folder where you want to create the project, and there just type the command mkdir. That will create a folder with the name API, and let's go to the API folder and open it in the VS Code. I'm using VS Code. You can use any other editor if you want to. All right, the project has been created. Now we need to install the necessary dependencies. So in order to do that, open the terminal in the root directory of your project. All right, now let's initialize the Node.js project in this directory. For that, run the command npm init-y, press enter. This will initialize your Node.js project with the package.json file, and once that is done, you need to install the dependencies. So we will first install the Express and MongoDB. MongoDB is totally optional for this tutorial to follow. This is just one thing that I will show you. If you want to in case if you want to use database, then I will show you how you will do that with the help of the MongoDB. Okay, so let's press enter and wait for it. The dependencies have been installed. You can see the package.json is also updated. Now let's create a new file, server.js, and you can see it is here. Now we will create our Express.js app in it. So let me type const express is equal to express, and then I will create my app, and then we will save the port where we will create the server and run it. You can also take the port from the environment variable as well. So for that you will use process.env.port or 3000. So if port is not defined, then it will by default use the 3000 port. So but if you are using the environment variable with the name port, then it will prefer that. Okay, now let's start creating our endpoints. So I will create the main basic endpoint by using app.get, and the endpoint is on the root. So we are using the get method, and we will just send the response to the client, hello world. Now let's start the server by calling the function listen on the port that we defined above, and within that I have consoled the log message server is running on that port. Now let's quickly test it. For that I will run it by running the command node server.js, and you can see the message is there. That's mean you can now access it on that port. So let's open a new tab, type localhost 3000, and you can see that we are able to access the endpoint on the get method. All right, next we will be designing the API endpoints. So first step is to plan your API structure and resources, and then you will be implementing the CRUD, create, read, update, delete operations, and at the end you will be handling the query parameters and request bodies. So let's do that. So first of all, I will create a folder in the root directory of my project, routes, and within that folder, I will create a file called users.js. All right. Now in the users.js, I will create a constant express is equal to require express, and we have created a router and saved it in the constant router. Now we will use the router to create our first endpoint, and within that I will simply send the message. Here you can console the log get all users. Okay, and then I will create the post method, and within that I will display the log create user, and after that I will create a route with this parameter that we will be expecting, and we will display the log with that parameter ID by using request.params.id. And finally I will add the delete method, and then I will add the put method that is basically to update. Okay, and at the end I will define the delete method. So in all of these three cases we are expecting the user ID in the parameters, and at the end we will export our router so that we could use it on the server.js. Now let me just remove it, and we will import the router from the route/ users. I gave it name users router. Now we will use this router. There is another important thing that we need to use is this middleware express.json. The reason is that if you want to send the data to your Node.js server, it will be not possible for you to access that data properly. So to make it easy, just use this middleware and you will be able to access any of the data that will be received to your Node.js API. You will be able to access it in the form of JSON. Okay, and now you will simply add the app.use and give it the /users as the base of your API, of your users APIs, and pass it the users router. That's it. Now let's quickly test it. So I will open the Postman. So here I will add the base URL http://localhost 3000 and press enter. I'll click on the send button. You will get the response from the API. And if you want to create a user, then, oh, by the way, this should not work because now we don't have endpoint on this path. So we just have to restart the server because we have made some changes. Now start it again. And this time, if you try to hit the root endpoint, it will be failed. That cannot get on that path. But if you add /users that we added here, you can see if you specify that, you will be able to access all of the endpoints within that. So now if you don't specify anything after the /users endpoint, then it will by default go to this endpoint on the get method. So let's hit the send button. This time you can see get all user text is coming from there. And now let's add post. So if you use the post method, then you are required to pass a parameter after that. If not, then that route would not be found. If you don't pass it, then you may face errors because in the real situation you will be expecting an ID that will be used. Okay, so here let's pass an ID and send it. Okay, if you use the post method on the same endpoint, then you will see a create user response. But now if you want to update or put, use the put, and if you hit the send button, it will say that not found. The reason is that on there is no route defined on this path on the put method. If you want to use the put method, you have to pass a parameter after the base endpoint. So here I will pass the parameter that is the user ID. Hit the send button. This time it is saying that update user with that ID. And similarly, if you want to delete, then pass the parameter in this way and that will be able to delete. Otherwise it will be failed and it will return not found. Alright, next we will quickly talk about the connecting to the database. So first of all, you need to choose a database. You can use any kind of database with this. You may use MongoDB, PostgreSQL, or MySQL, or whatever you prefer. You can connect with it and use it. So we already have installed the MongoDB for our database. So now we have to configure the database driver. So for that, here I will create a new file. You can create whatever structure you prefer. For now, I am trying to keep it simple. Database.js, and here you will create your connection. So let's go to the MongoDB website. Once you have your database set up, just click on the connect button and click on the drivers. Here you will select the Node.js version that you are using, and this is the command that we already have run. Now just copy this connection string and go back to the VS Code. Alright, now we need to create a connection in this database.js file. For that, I will create another dependency that is npm install mongoose. So once it is installed, I will start importing the modules that we want to use here. Mongoose is equal to require mongoose, and now I will use. You can also read the documentation of the Mongoose if you want to, or you can just quickly open it to follow the installation steps, and we already have run that. Now we need to call this simple line code in this way. Here you have to pass the connection string. So let's go to the MongoDB website, click on the connect and click on the drivers, and here select the Node.js version. Once that is done, copy the connection string. We will add the password as well shortly. So let's replace it with the new one that we just copied. You also, so this has the promise in it. You can use the then, and within then, if it is connected successfully, you will show this message. Otherwise it will show an error if there is a problem. Okay, and finally you will export the mongoose. Alright, once that is done, go to the server.js, that is the root of your app, and here on the top you will simply import the database file that you just created like this. Save it so that it could be available throughout your application. Now we need to create a password. So for that, go to the database access in the security section. So you can create a new user if you want to. So let's do that. Here there are different ways to give the access. Here I will add the user test and let's generate password. I copied the password. Now let's click on the add user. So we got an error. You must choose at least one privilege. So here let's for now give it the admin role. Okay, here as now this is a test user, so instead of this I will use test, and in the password let's paste password that we just copied from there. Now we have created the database model. Next we will create the schemas that we need to have. So let's create a folder here, models, and within that folder I will create a file user.js, and within that file I will require the mongoose again, and then I will create a constant user schema, and within that we will pass an object with some properties. So these properties would be basically the fields that you want to create. Let's say I want to have these fields, and at the end I will export it. I will call the model function with the name of the table or document, and now we will simply export it. Now we need to create the API functionality. For that we will create a folder called controllers, and within that we will have a file user controller.js, and now within that I will import my model that I just created. User is equal to require model / users. Make sure the path is correct. Okay, now use the exports dot get all users, and within that I will add try catch, and in the catch section I will simply return response.status and will include the message that came from the error. And in the try catch I will use the find function from the user model. Okay, and finally we are returning the users with the 200 status, and now we need to create another one to create a user. So this is how you will create a user. This is just a function. We created a new instance of the user model and saved in the user constant, and then we called the save function on it, and once it is created we return the 201 status code with the created user. All right, now after that we need to have the function to get a single user by the ID, and also we need to have the code for the update user function. So here we are using the user model and calling the update one, where we are passing the user ID and then giving it the data that we want to update, and we are sending back the updated user. And after that we need another function to delete user. Okay, so this is how you will delete. You just need to pass the user ID in the delete one function of the MongoDB and return the removed user. Okay, if user was not found, then it will simply throw the error 404. Now it's time to use it. So let's go to the routes users.js file, and here I will first import this function get all users. So here if you start typing like this, and if you press control space, it will give you suggestion that this function is available exported from a file. If you click on that, it will import it in this way. Now you are able to use it. Okay, here you will have to pass the request and response, and that's okay. Now go back to the Postman, and here I will use a get method, and let's remove the parameter and hit the send button. I got an error, so that's mean there is some problem. The reason is that we did not start the server yet. npm run the command node space server.js. I got an error, unexpected token export. Let's replace it with a different kind of syntax, module.exports is equal to mongoose. Now run the server again. Okay, now it is working. Let's go back to the Postman, hit the send button. Okay, I did not get any error. That's mean everything is fine. I just got an empty array. Now let's test the post method. So I need to pass some additional data. So in the create user, we are expecting name, email, and password from the body. So let's pass them. Go to the body section, click on the raw and select the JSON. And here I'm going to pass an object name XYZ, email abc@gmail.com, and then we need password. It can be anything for now. Okay, now let's hit the submit button, send button, and if everything is fine, you will see this message create a user. Right now we did not utilize the create user controller in the users route, so let's do that. Here I will import this function as well and just pass it as it is. Now let's restart the server and hit the submit button, and this time I got an error that is saying user validation failed, password path ABC is shorter than the minimum allowed length. This was defined in the user model. So let me show you that. So here in the password section, we have specified minimum length and maximum length. That's why it is happening. So now, so that's mean validation is also working. Now let's add some more text in it. Hit the send button, and this time there is no error, and we got the created user back as the response of this request. All right. Now, if you go back to the get method and hit that endpoint again, this time you will get a single user instead of empty array. Next, let's test the put method, but for that we have to use the update controller here in the users. Okay, but before that, every time I make a change, I have to manually restart the server. There is a way that will help you to automate that process. For that, just run the command npm install nodemon and go to the package.json, and here add the custom script dev, and here we use the nodemon. Let me reopen it because this file was updated. Okay, now let's add this command nodemon index.js. So this time we will simply run the npm run dev command, and it will start the server. Also watch it. There is no file index.js, so here I will add server.js. Okay, now let's start it again, and this time there is no error, and whenever you will make change, it will watch it and rerun the server for you automatically, so you will not have to do that every time. Now let's test this endpoint. For that, I need to add get user controller like we did earlier, and you saw that it was restarted automatically. And let's add this endpoint as well, update user, and pass the same parameters. And now let's implement the delete method as well. So delete endpoint was also implemented, but it was not imported, so let's import the delete user as well. All right, now here I am going to, so this is my user ID, so let me get it and go to the get method and go to the slash and pass the ID. Hit submit, and this time it is not an array, it is just a single object that came against that user ID. All right, now let's test the put method. I guess it is put. Okay, so now here in the name I will type hello world and make sure to pass the ID in the first parameter. Hit the send button, and it is saying that acknowledged true, modified content 1. So that's mean it worked. So let's duplicate it, and instead of using put, I will use the get method and see, yes, it is updated. So that worked. Now we need to delete it by using the delete method. So use the delete method here and make sure to pass the user ID and hit the send button. And now if you try to get this same user, it will not be found. The reason is that we just have deleted, and if you just remove it from this, the first parameter is removed. If you just hit the main endpoint, you will get the empty array because now there are no users. All right, next we have done all of these things. We have validated the user input as well by defining the validation requirements in the model. You can further implement your own validation mechanisms, like maybe you will use the Zod library, and in your controller you will use it further validate it before hitting the MongoDB. So let me quickly show you the Zod implementation as well, because normally you will use it to validate. So let's stop the server here. I will run the command npm install Zod, and once that is done, let's run the server again. And let's close the terminal now and go to the create user, and here we will use a Zod. Okay, first of all, I need to import the Zod. Okay, I just acquired the Zod, and now let's use it. So first of all, I would have to create a schema. Okay, here I have specified that the name should be a string and it should be required as well. And also we have specified minimum and maximum length. All right, now let's validate it by using try catch. Okay, here you can see I'm using schema.parse. Parse is a built-in function in the schema. Just pass it the body and it will validate based on these rules. If it is clear, then it will let you proceed. Otherwise, it will throw error in the cache block. So let's give it a quick try. I'm going to insert, and here I have reduce the number of characters in the name and hit the send button. This time you saw this error, cannot post, and you can customize this error message as well. So by the way, I made a mistake here. We are creating a user, so we don't have to pass an argument because right now there is no user. Okay, but we have an error here. we don't have to call the required here because it is already required by adding the string function. So let me remove all of these and start the server again. And now let's test it. Let's go back to the postman and hit that button. This time I'm getting a message that string must contain at least 3 characters. Okay, that is coming from here. But if you don't pass the name at all, hit the send button, and now you're getting the message required. You can customize these error messages as well by adding an object like that. So here you can say name is required. So now you will see that name is required is visible. Similarly, you can provide the error message. You can provide a custom error message in this way. Okay, now let's add the name again, but with the less number of characters, and now you can see this custom message is going there. If you add exclamatory signs and hit that button, you will see that it is being added. All right, so this is the Zode website that you can visit. So I really highly recommend this website, this library that you should use to make your life easy and to be very productive in your web development, because it makes very easy to validate your forms. You can use it on Node.js or on the front end in the React or Angular, whatever you prefer. You can easily use it. It is very helpful. All right, so we have discussed how to validate it, and next, if you go to the next section, we are going to talk about the testing and error handling. So let's write our unit test for API endpoints, and we will handle errors and exceptions gracefully. So by the way, we already have used the postman, so let's work on the testing. Okay, to create test, let's create a folder test/user.test. Within that folder, let's create a file user.test.js. Okay, so there are hundred of approaches to write your test, hundred of ways, so you can choose whatever you prefer. So this is just a simple demonstration. How would you do that? So it is just a way that you can then expand on to be more. All right, so here add the constant request is equal to supertest, but for that we have to import that npm package. So let me open that npm as well so that I could show you. So this is a library on the npm, and it has huge weekly downloads that you can see. That makes it very, very popular. So let's install it. All right, now let's run the server again, and let's complete our code. Here I will create my app. Okay, and now let's describe, and so here we are describing the user API, and here we will write our specs. It should get all users and async. Okay, so in this function we will create a constant response is equal to await request app.get method. So this will basically call it and get the list of users and save it in the response. And now you can call the expect function that will check if the status code is 200, and also it will check the request body, actually response body. So that has to be an instance of array. Okay, so if it is not returning an array, then that means there is something wrong, because we must need array in the response. Okay, in this way you will add more tests as well. For now, let's run this. As we are testing, so in order to use describe, we have to install another library, npm install save-dev-jest. Okay, and with that, let's go back to our package.json and wait for it to be installed. Once it is installed, we will add another script for testing. All right, so now let's add the test script, use the jest in it. Okay, now let's run the script npm run test. Okay, it has automatically found the file that we want to use. It is saying that port is already in use. Let's stop it for now and run it again. Okay, this time it is saying that we have an error that user API should get all the users. Okay, it was failed. So this is the error that cannot log after tests are done. Did you forget to wait for something async in your test? So I think it was trying to connect the MongoDB, but before it was done, it was failed. We are trying to use the app from the server, but we never exported the app. Okay, so let's export the app by using this command, and now we should have access to the app. So let's try to run it again. Okay, to get rid of that error, I will increase the timeout in this. So as it is saying that it was timed out in the should get all users, so I have increased the timeout. So let's see if that works. All right, now it was passed successfully. There was only one test and that was passed. Now you can add more tests as well if you want to. So maybe you want to test a create user feature. Okay, so now I'm expecting the status code 201, and I am expecting to have the property in the response underscore ID, and let's complete it. Okay. So now let's run the test again. Alright, all 2 tests are passed. So this is how you can write test. So there has to be better way and better things to consider while writing the test. So this video is not about writing tests. So I kept it very simple, but in future I might try to record a dedicated video about the testing where we will talk about all of the best practices. Okay, for now this is just for your quick learning. Okay, that's it about the testing. Now let's proceed. Now, you also may need to implement the security and authentication. So for that, maybe you are handling the login and authenticated access. For that, you will be using the JWT for secure communication. So in this way, you can protect your routes by using the JWT authentication. So for that, I will create the middleware. So you can have custom middlewares as well. So far we have used the built-in middlewares. Now let's create a file in the middleware with the name middleware/auth.js. Okay, so you can have as many middlewares as you want to have, and within that, actually let me stop it and start my server here again so that we can keep testing in the parallel. And here, first of all, I need to install the JWT token. So in the second terminal, I will run the command npm install JSON web token package, and let's import it here. Const JWT is equal to require JSON web token, and then we will export a function. So this is how our middleware looks. You have 3 parameters: request, response, and the next function. Now within that, you will have try catch. Let me close it for now. So here we will have try catch. In the try catch, we are accessing the token from the headers, and then we will verify our token by using the secret key. So I'm assuming you will have a secret key that you will have saved in the environment file, and then you will get the decoded token. You will save it in the request.user data and call the next function. So once that is done, you can protect your route. So for example, if you go to the server.js, here you can, so this is also a middleware. You can, before running this middleware, you can pass your own custom middleware auth like that. And now if you try to hit it, you will never be able to execute any endpoint because we are not passing any token. So let's suppose I want to get the users. I will get authentication failed error. Okay, that is happening because we are passing the auth middleware. Auth middleware is not letting it go, and it is throwing this error because it was not able to verify. So if we pass the correct token in the header, and that token has to be correct, that token has to be generated with the help of this secret key. Okay, so right now I don't have any login page, a login mechanism that will generate that token. So for now, quickly we will create a token so that we could use it. So let's go to the, so let me create a function, create sample JWT token. Okay, and so this is a temporary function. I will just remove it after we have created the token. Okay, so in this way you create a token, you call a sign function, and here you will add your details, your payload. Okay, and here you will pass your secret key, and you will specify the expiry time period. So here I will add my secret key. You can add whatever you prefer here, it will work. Let me just quickly randomly type this. So make sure that this secret key and this secret key is same. Okay, and now I will console this token. So normally this happens when you sign in, but right now we don't have sign in method, so I will just calling that manually, and go to the console, run the server, and you will find the token has been generated. So let's copy that token and let's go back to the postman, and here before hitting that I will pass my header. So you can go to the authorization in the postman and select the bearer token, and here pass the token, and if you do that in the header, you will find that token header has been added, and click on the send button. This time it will work because your token is valid, because this token was generated with the help of this secret key. So this secret key has to be same, so you can save the secret key somewhere or receive it from the environment variable. Okay, and now you can pass it in both places like that. All right, so this is how you can protect your routes. Next step is deployment. You can very easily deploy it and scale it. There are several servers that you available that you can use, like Heroku, AWS, or Vercel. Vercel is very easy nowadays, so I'm also using Vercel. So let me quickly show you the example by using Vercel. So before doing that, we need to move the secure credentials somewhere in the safe place. So we will use the env file for that. and pass all of the secure things there. So we need to save the secret key, and let's go to the auth and copy this secret key and paste it here. Similarly, in the database file, we are passing this password. This has to come from the environment variable. You can save this entire connection string in a variable. So here you can add process.env. You can provide a default URL as well if you want to. Okay, now here you will add Mongo URI, and here let's pass the URL and make sure that this name is 100% same that you have specified here. Let me copy this name and replace it. All right, now we have to create a GitHub repository because we want to deploy on the Vercel. So here I will create a new repo, Node.js tutorial code. Okay, so I will be saving all of my Node.js related tutorials code in this repo that you will be able to access. I will share it in the YouTube description as well. So as it is going to public, so click on the create. You should keep it private, but as I want to share it with you, so that's why I made it public. Now let's copy this and go back to your VS Code and run the command git init. And in the init, it is saying that there are more than 6,000 files. We never created those many files. Actually, it is considering the node modules as well. That is not a good practice, so you have to ignore that. You also have to ignore the .env file as well, because there are sensitive information in the .env file. We don't want to commit it with our GitHub code. So for that, create a new file, git ignore, and within that type the node_modules folder, save it, and you will notice that now the number of changed files are 11 only. And after that, I will also want to ignore env file as well. Okay, now we have 10 files. All right, now we need to add the remote origin. For that, add git remote add origin, save, give it the URL. Now let's commit our changes. So add all of these. As I'm using GitHub Copilot, so I have very useful feature of the GitHub Copilot that I can generate the commit messages. I don't have to type it manually. So if you are lazy, then this is very helpful for you. So sometimes you don't want to spend your energy to think about the commit message, and it will mostly create useful messages based on the changes that you have made. Okay, so let's click on the commit and we have to push it. Okay, it has pushed. Now if you go back here, reload it, you will see all of the files there. Before proceeding further, we need to fix some errors. Here we are getting errors that secret key is not defined. So here let's replace the secret keys with the process.env.secret key. You will again get the error that secret key must have a value because it is not defined yet. If you want to access the variables from the .env file, you have to install another dependency, that is npm install.env, press enter, and you will have to go to the main file of your server. On the top, you need to import .env in this way, and you have to call the config function, and with that it will immediately load the .env from your root directory and load it throughout your entire application. Now if you run look at your server, it is working correctly and connected without any error. Okay, so with that change, we can just add those to the staging area and click on this button. You can write your own commit message. It's okay, I got this suggestion: updated authentication middleware and package dependencies. So that's great. Click on that and push it. All right, now we need to link this repository with our Vercel account. So let me open my Vercel account. So here we have to click on the add new project. Okay, here you have connect your repository. So let me do that. Okay, here search for the repository that you want to connect. So this is the repository that you want to connect, Node.js tutorials code. So click on the import, and here it is asking for the framework preset. From here we will select the Node.js. If it is not available, it's fine, just select the other and select the root directory. All right, we need to add the environment variables as well. So let's go back to the VS code. On the env file, select all of these variables and go back here. If you paste, all of these variables would be added automatically in this way. Okay, all right, now let's hit the deploy button and let's see works. Okay, it has been deployed. Let's see. Right now it is saying that not found. So I think we need to make some changes because in our package.json file, the main file is index.js, but our file is server.js. So let's set server.js, and now Let's add it and commit and push it. Actually, there is another way to fix it. So let's go back to the project. I will create a new file, add vercel.json, and here I have specified the build section that is targeting the index.js file directly and using the vercel/node to make the node environment available, and in the route I am targeting this. So, by the way, there is another problem that we did not pass any port, but we want to access it on the port 80. So for that we have to go to the setting of this project and we have to pass the environment for the port. Okay, so let's add another environment, port 80, and save it. Okay, actually let me convert it back to the index.js, and let's go to the package.json. Here I will add index.js here and here, and in the Vercel as well, index.js. Save it. Let's commit it. Okay, now in the deployment, let's watch the next deployment. It has been started. All right, it has been deployed. You can see that it has deployed to this path, index.js. Now let's remove it and you should see this response. And here if I add /users, then you will get this error that authentication failed. That's mean our endpoint is working. Now let's go to the Postman, and so in our Postman, I will replace this with this path, and this time it will work. The reason is that this time we are passing the authorization token. If we don't pass it, then it will not work. So let's make it invalid. In the beginning, I will add some invalid characters, send it, and this time it will not work because this is not a valid token. Okay. So we have talked about the deployment as well. So this was a very basic that I just wanted to cover in this video. This can be in more depth in a specific video that I may record in future. So I hope that this video was useful for you. If you think that this provided value to you, then please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon to get notified for my upcoming videos. Also, please like and share this video. If you have any questions or feedback or suggestions, then please leave them in the comment section and I will do my best to reply them as soon as possible.